We begin this morning with the proposed countrywide demonstrations to protest against alleged bad governance by the President Bola Tinubu administration starting today, which appears to have divided the nation along the North and Niger Delta divides. While some prominent northern leaders have declared support for the idea because it seems to reflect the reality and mood of the nation, the Niger Delta people have questioned the motive of the planned protests. Some northern Nigerian elders and stakeholders had yesterday announced their full support for the planned nationwide hunger protest tagged #EndBadGovernance in Nigeria. In a statement by Professor Usman Yusuf, the elders and the stakeholders, including Hajia Najatu Mohammed, Malam Salihu Lukman and Dr. Umar Ado, also tabled 7 demands to the government of President Tinubu. But on their part, the Niger Delta stated that they are bracing up for the impending nationwide protest, but in opposition to it. This notwithstanding, some state governments, including the Federal Capital Territory FCT, while preempting the worst-case scenario, had obtained court orders restricting movements of protesters and within a specified time frame. A high court in the Federal Capital Territory has restricted participants in the protest to the MKO Abiola Stadium, also known as National Stadium. The court issued the order today in Abuja while delivering a ruling in an ex parte application brought before it by the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory. He had applied for an order of interim injunction restraining the 5 leaders of the protesting groups from gathering or parading themselves along any road, streets, offices and public premises within the FCT between August 1 and August 10 or any other day after that. The minister claimed that intelligence reports indicated that some protesters intend to cause havoc and irreparable damage to public facilities and disturb public peace.
The Honorable Minister of the FCT, based on the credible intelligence about the proposed protest tomorrow, and also based on the letter received from an organization called Take Back Movement, FCT, threatening to invade the villa, asking the minister to provide toilet and so many other things, including removing the barbed wire to the office of the president for them to visit the president. He has approached the court, FCT High Court, and the court, in its wisdom, recognized their right to protest. Recognized their constitutional right to protest peacefully. But then, in view of the exigencies of the moment and for the security reason, the Honorable Court has directed, giving an order that they should be allowed to use Moshood Stadium, Abuja, for protest and not any other place. He also directed that the security agencies, that the Inspector General of Police, Director General Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Air Staff, Chief of Naval Staff, and all security agencies to provide security for them to protest peacefully there. And then most importantly, they should give them adequate protection to protest within the area allowed by the court.
All right, Rufai, I'm sure you've heard about the fact that courts in Lagos, FCT, have said that the protests can only happen in certain specific locations. Beyond that, people are still saying they're going out today to peacefully protest. Your take on this story?
But I'm also sure those courts remember that there's a right of movement according to the Constitution of the Federal Republic, which is the ground norm. As expires in Section 39 and other sections of the Constitution, there's also a right for gathering, association, and peaceful protest. So when the state tries to nucleate a protest to a certain area, it's also in contravention of the Constitution, because those courts also see what is happening in the country. And those that are going to the courts, like the police, also see how people have threatened other people against this protest and nothing has been done about it. How people like Asari Dokubo has threatened that they will be giving water in the Niger Delta. those that come out to protest. We've seen the loud voices of the opposition to these protests to the point of threats, but nothing was done about it. But we are so quick to now play all of this. Yesterday, the police say they saw an IED. All of a sudden, it's the eve of the protest, they saw an IED. All this while, there was no IED. One thing is certain. The people coming out to protest, they are not protesting for themselves. They are protesting for the generality of Nigerians. The people protesting are protesting because of the harsh economic situations, just like the Northern Elders Forum had talked about. They are protesting against two policy somersaults that has caused undue hardship, floating the naira at the same time removal of subsidy. They are protesting because they want reforms in the judiciary, which today we have seen how things have panned out in the judiciary. They want constitutional reforms. They want reforms across board. That's why they're protesting. They want our country to be able to stand on its 2 feet. They don't want a country where, in one breath, we are talking about the effect of ways and means, but the Senate yesterday is also trying to increase to about a 15% threshold what the government can collect from ways and means, thereby enthroning a regime of financial recklessness and fiscal recklessness in our country. They are protesting because government is telling them to tighten their own belts. But at the same time, we are hearing government wanting to buy new private jets, building 21 billion for vice presidential place or palace. They are protesting because the lawmakers are feeding fat at the expense of the people while people are suffering. They are protesting because the price of food has gone astronomically up, over 40% the one recorded, but in real time is well over 100%. Because if between last year and this year, about a kilo of beans that was over 600 is inching over 2,000 now. In fact, that's over 200% for some food items. So that's why they are showing their angst and their protests. And it is their right, because you've pummeled them to a corner. While they are trying to rummage through their chaotic life, the only voice they have is to be able to enunciate their voices and protest. Do not take that right away from them. Because in 2012, nobody took that right away from the same players. So court orders here and there, all for a protest. But these were the same people that they didn't get court orders against the protesters that protested when the Naira redesign was hurting a lot of people across the... In fact, some of the governors enunciated their support and used the protest as a case in the Supreme Court for them to reverse that policy. So when it's suitable for them, protests do not cause chaos. But when it's not suitable, they get on the street and threaten other people. The Nigeria state must remember that the state is for the people. The state is the people, not those in the executive arm of government, which their reign is but transient. The state is the people. The people is the states. The state is the people. The people is the states. The state is the people. The people is the states. I rest my case, Ayo.
Right. Dr. Bati?
Okay, very quickly, let me start with the courts. What has happened is that in some of the states, in the Federal Capital Territory, the Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, filed an ex parte application through his counsel asking the court to restrict the protesters to the MKO Abiola Stadium in Abuja. And the presiding judge of the Federal High Court Abuja, Justice Silvanus Oji, granted that application. And that between August and 1 to 10, the protesters are restricted to the stadium, pending the hearing and determination of the motion on notice. And the judge recognized the fact that, yes, you have the right to protest, but the court also has a responsibility to protect public infrastructure and to ensure that the protests do not spill onto the streets. Similarly, in Ogun State, the Court of Justice Ogun, in an application filed by the Attorney General, also granted a similar application to say that in parts of the state, in Abeokuta, MKO Stadium will be the place, in Ijebu-Ode Dikpodino Stadium, in Ota, and also elsewhere, there were designated locations, and that the protest should be between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. So in those two instances, the courts have not abused the rights of the protesters. No court has said you cannot protest. What the courts have done, also in Kwara State, where the magistrate court also ruled to say the protest should be restricted to the Metropolitan Square. Now, the argument is that, look, there are no absolute rights. You can protest, but you cannot, do certain things in the course of the protest. All these are ex parte applications. Secondly, in Abuja, the FCT minister has said he did not grant any permission for the use of the Eagle Square. Across the states, all the states, without exception, the governors have all asked for calm, they've asked for peace, they've asked for people to respect the rule of law. Now, as for the northern leaders that you started with, Professor Usman, Dr. Ado, and two others, they are putting on the table 7 demands. Lead by example, accountability, all of that. The protesters, we spoke with Adam Olekun of EIE yesterday in office now. She said they collated 12 demands. Those demands are out there in the public domain. The response from government is that government is already addressing these demands. Government is already looking into these demands. Now, the SGF had a conference yesterday where they met. Well, I find instructive 2 issues raised by the governor of Lagos State. The governor of Lagos State addressed the public. I think the address was about 22 minutes or so. Yeah. And he raised the question. And he raised the question that what will happen on the 11th day? Will it bring down the foodstuff, the prices of foodstuff? Because what has happened is that in Enugu and elsewhere, there's greater hardship. But Governor Sanwo-Olu says, will it bring down the prices? And in Abuja, many people are now saying, the president himself should address the country. Yes. If the president can speak directly to the people, to follow the example of Sanwo-Olu in Lagos, maybe that will also be a way of showing direct concern.
It's interesting that you asked the president to take the example of Governor Sanwo-Olu, who himself in that statement has said that we are being led by a courageous president. And courage would have meant that the president would have come out to speak to the people, which is #1 demand from the northern elders, which is engage in dialogue. Why he hasn't done this, it begs, a lot of questions. But we have a number of our correspondents out all across Nigeria in different states. And today we're going to be bringing you live updates as to what's happening on ground.